Back to the basics. Back to what got me here. Stack your days, man, and win the day.
Markelle Fultz, born May 29, 1998. Today's feature is the story of how a player can go from so much potential on every level prior to the NBA to the point he was the first overall pick, selected over 6 players that became all-stars, with a few of them at his direct position of point guard shooting guard, to out the league at 26 years old. The Sixers traded up 2 spots before the draft just to take him, thinking he'd be the perfect fit with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, passing on Jason Tatum, who I think would have been a championship fit next to those two, and Donovan Mitchell, who would have fit just as well. After only 2 seasons with that team, never playing at least 20 games, injured pretty much the entire time, and being absolutely one of the worst first picks ever in the draft in that span, they traded him to the Orlando Magic in 2019, who proceeded to pay him almost $100 million to average 35 games over 5 seasons and shoot well under 30% from a distance, becoming the standard of basketball now and going forward. After those years where honestly he didn't look that bad, considering they and seemingly every team in the league feels what he brings is not enough value to add to the direction they're going individually, with none picking him up before the start of the 24-25 season, and after 10 games or so, he's still unsigned. I'm not too surprised, because since leaving the University of Washington as, in my opinion, one of the smoothest and most dominating freshmen college basketball has seen in the one-and-done era from an individual standpoint, whose game looks to be a perfect fit and transition to the NBA, he's had the most mysterious injury of all time that completely changed a shooting motion that was buttery soft before to being reminiscent of a science project gone horribly wrong. He went on to change and adjust his shooting form many times and ended up with a shot that looks as if he never knew how to shoot the ball before entering the league and was taught to shoot, instead of it being a natural motion like it was before. These changes has been deemed an injury called thoracic outlet syndrome, a one-of-a-kind injury that I've literally only seen happen once in the NBA, and that was to Fultz. It completely shifted the potential of his career, where without being a confident shooter, he was left to play a slasher guard role that had to do all the little things on the court instead of being the future superstar everyone thought he'd be. In that role, Markelle has played well for Orlando, outside him still dealing with not being available enough, but none of it was able to keep him around. Here are the real reasons this could be the end for his career at such a young age. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Markelle Fultz is a 6'4" point guard shooting guard from Upper Marlboro, Maryland that wasn't initially a prospect you would think would be a first overall pick. He joined DeMatha Catholic High School and played on their freshman team, but was cut from the varsity team his sophomore year, standing at just 5'9" and still raw talent. His junior season, Fultz grew to 6'3" and became much more aggressive and athletic, averaging a well-rounded 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. By then, his profile had exceeded expectations, leading to the University of Washington recruiting him heavily, committing to them after his junior year. Going into his senior season, he was ranked in the top 30, which quickly changed to top 5 overall and top 3 point guard and number 1 combo guard in his class. After averaging over 19 points and nearly 9 rebounds, he was selected as a McDonald's All-American and Jordan Brand participant, now 6'4", and seen as a surefire one-and-done player going into college. Stunt number 1, the jumper. The number one thing that stands out about Markelle Fultz and his story is his jump shot or lack thereof. If you follow basketball, I'm sure you know who Markelle Fultz is, and the first description of him that comes to mind is the mind-blowing change of his shot, either due to injury or a mental lapse where he completely forgot how to shoot, then lost confidence in his shooting that only made it worse. Going into the 2017 draft, I can remember the word on Fultz being the most can't-miss prospect in the draft, and for good reason. At Washington, he was outstanding. Not only for his averages, but the way he played seemed reminiscent of past great ball-dominant NBA players who just may be much better in the past NBA systems. His play in college versus the NBA looks night and day, specifically with his shooting, going from over 41% from three, which is difficult to do on a team every defense is focused on every night, to only shooting 27% in the NBA. I understand that the NBA three-point line is a further distance than college, so some difference is possible in a player's result. But that big of a difference in Fultz's case is astonishing. It could be as diagnosed as a thoracic outlet injury, which is where the blood vessels between the neck and shoulder become too compressed that it hinders movement in the shoulder and arm, affecting a shooter's motion. Or it could be, as some feel, Fultz sustaining an injury sometime before the draft that wasn't reported that messed up his shoulder and caused him to have to literally learn how to shoot again. Either way, he's been reduced to a player that doesn't look like his shot will ever get back to where it was in college and won't ever be one a team should feel comfortable in still investing in. Add to that the direction of NBA basketball becoming much more of a shooter's league, heavily focused on spacing, that's created only when all five players are threats from beyond the arc. Early on, it looked like not only did Markelle Fultz forgot how to shoot, but how to play basketball as a whole, and although he regained most of his movement and confidence, he never became a good enough shooter to add to a team. When you speak about offensive liability, only Ben Simmons I can think of at the position is a bigger one than Fultz, being almost self-guarded beyond the mid-range. Because of this, he remains unsigned to this day, November 2024. Stunt number 2, the injuries. As if things couldn't get worse for Fultz, he not only sustained a shoulder injury that melted his shooting potential, but he also dealt with many injuries to other parts of his body, even tearing his left ACL in 2021 and enduring small injuries here and there that constantly kept him sidelined after he was traded to the Orlando Magic. Philadelphia finally gave up on that process, investing a lot into helping Fultz restructure his jump shot and dealing with the constant criticism of their first overall pick, to the point you could see in Philly he just wasn't a confident player. He played well initially in Orlando, averaging 12 points and 5 assists, starting 60 of the career-high 72 games he played on the season in 2019-20. The very next year, after just 8 games, he tore his ACL and missed the rest of that season and 21-22, playing 8 games and 18 games respectively. In 22-23, he had his best year, upping his averages to over 14 points per game on a stacked and guard-heavy Orlando roster. He also added nearly 6 assists per, shooting over 30% from 3 for the first time, and played 60 games, starting them all. It led to the Magic fully guaranteeing his $17 million salary for 23-24. But after 4 games of the 23-24 season, Fultz was injured again, this time tendinitis in the same surgically repaired left knee. He'd go on to miss 30 of the next 31 games due to the knee injury that I think made the Orlando Magic decide he wasn't worth the investment going forward, especially with point guards Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony, not to mention Paolo Banchero, who dominates the ball like a point guard already. Over the next 39 games left in the season, Markelle was consistently out the lineup with a sore knee, falling to under 8 points per game, under 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and career low 22% from 3. It was supposed to be a great year, springboarding off the 22-23 season. Instead, it was marred with injuries that has no team willing to take the risk. Stunt number 3, the evolution of the game. In today's NBA, not being able to be an adequate shooter and injuries are the worst enemy of an NBA player. Despite what Shaquille O'Neal said about the league being ruined by the emergence of three-point shooting, the NBA now and going forward will forever be dominated by teams that have great shooters, or at least ones that provide a threat from outside. Having a guard not being able to be at least that puts your team at significant disadvantage unless he adds something else on offense or defense that can't be denied. Markelle Fultz does neither. The fact is, you can find a Markelle Fultz in many different places. At 26 years old, his potential has reached its ceiling because of his injury history and history of him being a poor shooter. It's just that simple. He remains unsigned because of it. In my opinion, the game will never go back to the basket dominant inside play, almost like learning Santa Claus isn't real but still believing in it. The three-point shot is worth the most on the court. At the ease and rate players shoot and make them now, why would any team go back to Shaq's era, directly affecting Markelle Fultz? All in all, Markelle Fultz made over $85 million in 7 years in the NBA, so he's done a great job at life and his focus in that aspect. But as far as why he's already out the league, look no further than these reasons. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.